Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are
Good.
you?
Hope you're feeling good. Let's start off. Tell us a little about yourself, like basic information, like.
Well, my name's James Quick. I'm originally from Bay Area, like right outside of San Francisco. I've been playing music for as long as I can remember. It's very much been in my family. And I went to school in New Orleans to like kind of pursue that passion. Kind of was into like the funk and blues of all that, kind of chasing that. And then really started actually getting into more like singer-songwriter stuff when I was down there, surprisingly, and not what you go there for. And then, yeah, came to LA, been just chasing the music dream since, and recently just been getting really into the mental health aspect of music and using my voice as an artist to like just spread awareness and just like hopefully just make anyone feel like they are understood at some point. So, yeah.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So when you say you're a musician, that just kind of says to me, obviously, because I'm one also.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to know like what it's like being a songwriter. Like being a songwriter, the difference, because that's not a thing a lot of people you don't get to hear your voices. There's normally the
Totally.
artist. What is it like being a songwriter?
So it's changed. It's funny how much it's changed for me over the last few years. Like before, it used to just be like hum a nice melody, something that sounds good, write some like cool words over it, and then like that's a song. And I'm a songwriter, and everyone's different. And for me lately, it's been every song I write, I want it to really resonate with me. Because that's what I've noticed, like, and it's weird how it's easier to do that. It's easier to write something that's just true to you and it's on your mind, as opposed to like writing something that you think will sound good to somebody else. So lately, it's been about just as a songwriter, I'm like I just put my own feelings, my truest thoughts into a song in the simplest way I can. And then that's something that someone else will hear and be like, whoa, like I never thought of it that way. Or maybe, wow, I thought that way too, and I haven't really heard anyone else say it, you know?
That's
So that's, where I'm at right now. So.
Okay. You've had success. Like things
Yeah.
have gone well. Things have gone well. And
Yeah.
you have success on both sides of the spectrum. So
For sure.
what's it like being in the public eye in that space? What's it like?
It's cool because I've had success in streaming. So I've had success on the music side of things. I don't have much of a social media following. So people like my music. They don't necessarily follow me for who I am as a person, which honestly, I'm actually flattered by. I think that's nice. Like I'm really not out here, like I'm not in the influencer space. I'm not really trying to have you follow me because I'm like a character. You know, I'm out here because I want you to like my music. And so I'm streaming well, and it feels amazing. It's really cool, especially because I already kind of had that streaming platform. And then when I started getting into mental health space, I was like, it's cool because I can write these things that are very meaningful to me. And I really had to open up. And I knew that it would have some sort of an impact. Maybe not like the biggest impact, but I was like, there are some people listening. And just having that feeling and knowing that this might affect somebody or might help just one person is huge. So yeah, it keeps me going.
Yeah, I think the distinction or the between the fact that you're doing well streaming and then you're not really in the social media stratosphere, because
Totally.
we all know what social media does,
Yes.
and we all know how the pluses and minuses.
Totally,
It's a
totally.
gift and a curse at times. And how do you feel like, as an artist who strays away from something that's so important to, it's taught that it's so important to your artistry? How do you feel? How do you juggle the two of that?
Honestly, it's my biggest struggle, hands down, right now. I'm having a really, really hard time because it's exactly what you're saying. Like I'm literally sitting here singing about anxiety, depression, mental health issues, and then I'm being told as an artist that I need to be more active on social media platforms, which I'm the biggest believer that it's a huge cause of anxiety and depression and stuff. So it's a huge struggle for me right now, and I mean it's just one of those things. I feel like, you know, we all do things we don't necessarily want to do, and whether it's our lives, our jobs, personal stuff, and so I try to just think of it as there's worse things than me getting to live my passion as like a job and having to do some things I don't want to do. Like there's worse things in the world. But no, it's hard. It's really hard for me because like, yeah, you come to this industry and I'm having a lot of people tell me, whether it's like A&Rs, managers, labels, like the number one thing they tell me to focus on right now is post on TikTok. And I personally hate it. Like TikTok, it gives me anxiety. As someone even listens to it in the corner and I hear the videos on repeat, I'm like, I'm already just feeling like overwhelmed. Like this is too much.
You're getting anxiety just right now. Just when you said TikTok, you're like, oh,
like,
TikTok.
I see it. Yeah, exactly. So, I think I'm sure there's a healthy middle ground that I can find. But yeah, for me, if I have to do some social media in order to build my platform to talk about mental health more, then I think it's worth it and I can handle some of that. But it's difficult. I know a lot of artists who struggle with the same thing.
I'm one of those.
Yeah.
It's really difficult for me too. I find ways to detach because I have to detach. But I understand what you mean about the pressures from managers and A&Rs, and you have to post here, you have to be there. And I'm absolutely. Our band isn't on TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm not on TikTok, but
Totally.
we're told nonstop we need to be on TikTok.
Absolutely.
But I just can't. I just can't do it. Literally,
No.
I get anxiety the minute I'm on it, and I'm like, can't do this anymore. So I totally understand you. What are things that you're doing though to balance that out for yourself, like so you don't get the anxiety when you need? Like I'd like to know, like, what are you doing as far as like?
I mean, I can definitely speak on the subject matter, but I wish someone had better answers than I do because I would love to hear them. But no, so literally, actually, last night I had my vocal lesson, and I've struggled a lot with my voice as an artist, and I'm very self-conscious about it. I had a while where it's hard for me to sing, and I realized part of the reason is whenever I sing these days, it's to get a perfect take. So it's either like I'm recording a track and vocals have to be perfect. I'm recording a TikTok, I have to look good, and my voice has to sound good, and I'm always thinking about it being recorded. And my vocal teacher was like, that's because like times are changing. When you go on stage now and every second someone can get a clip of you and replay that, you're much more vulnerable because these go on forever. Like, if you're seeing like a rock band in the 70s, they just left it out on stage and then it's over. I mean, obviously there's like live albums and stuff. So last night after my vocal lesson, I was like, I just need to sing for enjoyment and just for me and not film it, not record it, because I haven't done it in forever. I was telling him, I was like, talking to my teacher, like the last time I sung just for fun was forever ago. I can't remember. And that's so sad to me because that's why these passions get created. Like I remember 5 years ago, I would learn a song and be so excited just to sing it and like show my mom, be like, look at this song I learned. Now it's like, I don't do that anymore. And it's funny because I learned a song, I was singing some Beatles songs, and I was like, this sounds really good. And I pulled out my phone, I was like, I should record it. And then I instantly started getting anxious. And I was singing worse. And I'm like, why am I trying to record this right now? Like, I enjoyed myself for 20 minutes and I'm already trying to ruin it. So I think it's finding, like, time for both. There's a time to record, there's a time to post, but you also need to, like, remember why you're doing this. And I personally don't enjoy recording TikTok videos. And if I do enjoy just singing by myself in my apartment for 30 minutes, like, do more of that. So that's literally just something I kind of, like, discovered yesterday, so hopefully it works for me long term.
That's good. Yeah. You seem to be like really self-aware. When did your mental health journey start? Like what got you here? What got you into mental health?
So for me, honestly, it was almost actually 2 years ago now. I lost one of my best friends in the world. Like growing up in high school, middle school, there was like a group of 4 of us, just like best friends. Like and like we all went to different schools, high school, college, and it just nothing changed. It was like we are always together. And then out of nowhere, just lost one of my friends. And I had no idea, but he was dealing with a lot of mental health issues, and I had no idea. None of us did. And right then and there, I just had like the worst experience of like crippling anxiety. And I had never dealt with anxiety before in my life at all, in any capacity. And I never dealt with depression. And then out of nowhere, I was, just completely, I could barely leave the house. I couldn't do anything. Like, I tried going to a museum with my girlfriend, and I had like a full-on panic attack where I was like, honestly, like, we need to call for help or something. Like, I had no idea what to do. And so, that was the first time. That was the first time I understood what anxiety was. And it was on a very serious level. But before that, I thought anxiety was just like nerves or stress. When people are like, I feel anxious. It's like, you do something, you're a little nervous. And you're like, man, I got anxiety. And then I dealt with that. And all the songs I'd ever heard about anxiety, I was like, this makes sense. And I suddenly felt for people who had to deal with that. Like, seriously, because I know a lot of them. I know a lot of people are like, I really struggle with anxiety. And I was like, oh, you're just like a little more nervous sometimes than I am. And then I realized just how hard it can be. And so that day, actually, I was at the museum, and had like a full-on panic attack, I came home and wrote a song on a mental health EP called Anxiety, and it was literally just about like, I was just losing my mind, and I had no idea what to do about it. And so I put a lot of it into songs. I was just writing a bunch, which is amazing because it helped me. Like, that was my therapy. And then it's obviously, I think it's amazing if it can help anyone else. But yeah, that was that was like a very onset beginning to like my experience with mental health. And actually the day I found out about my friend, literally the night before, I was hanging out with my friend Hunter, who is the creator of Make Sure Your Friends Are Okay, which is an amazing mental health company I love. And yeah, I saw him that night, and then the next morning I got the call, and I just texted him, and I was like, dude, like, I understand what this company means now. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. I am glad that I've like be able to like get to a better place in my life. Like, I'm doing better now, and I've learned to like manage my anxiety better. And so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, anything I can do to like just spread the word, help anyone who goes through that, like, because it's tough. And for me, the best part was knowing that I was not alone. So yeah.
That's very key. That's very key. When you said music was your therapy,
Yeah.
have you ever actually spoken to a therapist? Have you actually sat and had the chance to do that?
No, and I really wish I could. I mean, for me, I just couldn't really afford it at the time. So it wasn't necessarily an option, but I was really dying to like talk to a therapist, because I mean, I'm very open with my emotions and my feelings, and so anyone that will just sit down and listen to me like just lay it all out, like, I'm super here for that. So yeah, I never had the chance. I was very lucky though that, I mean, it was amazing how many of my friends and family I learned were going through some of the same things just when I started talking about my experiences.
Exactly.
And that was crazy to me. And one of the best things that helped me was literally talking to one of my friends in that same friend group. And I was telling him about my anxiety. And I was like, this is horrible. Like, I can't live my life. I can't do anything. I'm freaking out all the time, and I had no idea how to handle it. And then he told me he went through the exact same thing in high school. We hung out every day in high school. I had no idea. I had no idea. And he told me he was going through the exact same thing and just kind of kept it to himself. And he learned to get a hold of it. But he told me the main thing was, he is like, this is temporary. You have to remember that this is temporary. Because my biggest fear was it came out of nowhere, hit me like a brick wall, and I was like, this is who I am now. This is forever. And when he told me this is temporary and that he'd gone through the same thing, I immediately felt like, wow, like, that's amazing. First, I felt understood, but also just feeling like knowing that there is gonna be an end to this anxiety, and like, that can happen. You can get out of this, like, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, that was huge for me.
It seems like you got like a real good support system. Did you
Yeah.
feel like your support system was there for you the entire time? Did you always feel like you can lean on them, or was it something where you just kind of learned that in the mix in what was going on?
I mean, it's very cool because we have that kind of relationship where we don't really text, we don't really call, but when we all go home to our hometown, we meet up, and it's like we didn't skip a beat. Even if it's like we haven't seen each other for 2 years. So we always had that relationship where, yeah, we weren't talking a huge amount, but if you needed to call or whatever, like 100% they're there, and like you can talk about it. And I mean, part of the reason it was better, and I did feel like I had the support system, is we all went through the same thing. I mean, we all lost a friend. We were all in that together. So we had each other, and I think it's huge to just be open and like talk about it and like let it out. And like, we cried together, we talked about it, and we did not like bury it. We let it out, and I think that's why I am like, I can like live my life now. You know, like, I let out a lot of emotions with them in conversations, by myself, in song, and I really confronted it and really spent time like dealing with it instead of just kind of burying it, which I was very tempted to do at times, you know?
That's awesome. One of the things you said that I really, really love is that we experienced it together,
Yeah.
so we healed together.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what happened. You guys
Yeah.
healed together. And speaking of like collective experiences, like, we just came through one of the toughest times
Yeah.
in the world. We
Yeah.
collectively now experience
Absolutely.
trauma together. So
Totally.
how was that for you?
It was weird because I noticed a lot of people in my life who are having a really hard time. Like they needed some interaction, and they're like, dude, like I just need to get out. Like I miss people. I need to go out again. And for me, I'm honestly so happy being alone. Like I was fine. Like my mental health was actually pretty good the whole time. Because I'm very fine, like being alone. Friday night comes, I'm very good with like staying home and like not, it almost like gets rid of some of my anxiety that I don't have to go out and socialize. But no, the people that I do know that were struggling with it more, that 100%, like being able to talk about it, because like you said, we all went through it. And so 100%, I think that's like the best example of like, yeah, being able to talk to some people and relate about a struggle. Because everybody here can relate that like you were isolated at some point, you did have a hard time at some point, and like now things are like getting a little better. But no, 100%. And so I've just tried to be supportive for my friends who did have a harder time during all this, you know?
And since you didn't struggle as much, your peers, as far as not just personal peers, but your peers in music, how did that impact people? Did you have any experience with that?
A lot of artists that I personally know, or just listening to music, a lot of people did start to like touch on mental health more, because I feel like when you're in isolation, a lot of that stuff kind of seems to be a little more apparent in your life. Which I think is amazing, because I think at a time, where people are isolated, like music was one of the main things that could help you get through it. Because we're all at home just waiting for either the next song or the next movie or the next show, you know? So like, I think the music at that time was very, very important. And yeah, I mean, luckily I was actually healing during that time and actually in a better place in my life. So I'm at a point where I'm trying to release stuff that is, you know, kind of still in the mental health space, but that also is very relative to where I'm at. So it's like uplifting, which is like I deal with these things, but it's going to be okay, and I am healing, and I'm doing better. Because I think people need to hear that as well, not just the sad stuff. So,
Exactly, yeah, because sometimes mental health has this stigma around it, the conversation itself, that it's just this sad moment, that you're not, like it's just really, really down. And no, actually, you start to feel better, and you actually start to learn methods and way to cope, and you can share information and things like that, and you build these support groups, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like what happened when you lost your friend, that you guys rallied together, built a support group for each other, and helped you guys get through that.
Absolutely.
And how important do you feel something like it, that kind of a support group is for young adults, everyone, just everyone in America?
So important. I mean, I think after going through that and talking to one friend about it and then two friends and noticing how much better it made me feel, now like I am such an open book, and like I still get anxious all the time. And like the first thing I do, if I'm hanging out with a friend, I'm just like, dude, I feel really anxious right now, you know? And I'm very open about it, and it always makes me feel better. Because usually, like, most of the people, at least that I know, have experienced it too, and they're like, they're understanding. And once you're in a room with someone and they know that you feel anxious, you just feel more comfortable, instead of feeling like, I'm hiding this, and like, I don't want anyone to notice that I'm acting strange, you know? The second you just say it. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy once you start talking about it more, how much you notice other people experiencing the same stuff. So that's honestly, it's like my favorite thing to do. I'm very open with my emotions, and then almost like the amount of conversations I've had where you can tell they haven't talked about it much. I'll be like in a session writing a song, be like, yeah, I'm anxious, or like I had a really hard time, or like sometimes I just like am not feeling great and I have these downs, and then you can kind of notice they're like a little hesitant to talk about it, but they're like, yeah, like me too. And it's like, you can see like it's like a lift off their shoulder, like a weight off their shoulders, that they're finally able to express this because they feel comfortable.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think just normalizing those conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you find a comfortable space being vulnerable, when you're vulnerable, you tend to liberate others. You tend to free them of their vulnerabilities. Like, hey, I'm vulnerable too. And now you've connected on this point where it's like, hey, we might be from different spaces, different walks of life. We might be even here just to record a song.
Yeah, literally.
Whatever it might be. But guess what? We both felt that. It's like, oh, like,
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no,
Like,
it's so important.
And that's the thing I think people would need to realize, where it's a community. When you're talking about mental mental health advocacy, and you're talking about being an advocate for mental health, it's such a huge community where it's something like where every experience you're speaking of, I've experienced that. And we're sitting now for the first time ever talking, and we're just talking openly, laughing about things that's just like, because we connected. And I feel like the rest of the world needs to feel like that. I feel like everyone needs to understand that, hey, we all on some level have experienced this, so guess what? We're all in the same. There's not really much separation to who 100%. We are. So I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, dude.
Now, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the social media aspect. Yeah, and
I know
you got back at it again. He's like, I'm nervous again. With the social media aspect, how do you feel social media has like really the impact it's had on like collective mental health?
I mean, it's definitely one of those things where there's a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. I don't have the best relationship with it, but it's also, I've understood how important it is for me to understand that it is not all negative by any means. It's something that's out there and it's not going away anytime soon. So I think the best thing to do is find like some of the positive aspects of it or the ways that you can use it to help people. Subconsciously, it just causes a lot of anxiety in people. I mean, I think we're just so stimulated. That's what social media is. You show the best parts. You show your best photos, your happy
highlight
stuff.
reel.
Yeah, it's all highlights. And I think that's what part of the reason people are so anxious and depressed is because they're just constantly comparing themselves to these unrealistic standards. And so what I saw a lot during quarantine, which I think is amazing, is like influencers, artists, people with a platform opening up and like showing yourself whether you're struggling or like even just posting like feeling super anxious today, guys, like, but like I know it's gonna be fine. Or like even people are like crying on Instagram and being like, this is really hard, you know, and like all that stuff. Like when you see that, you start to realize, first of all, that these are normal people and like it's not all like rainbows and butterflies, but also that, like you are not alone in that. So, I mean, luckily, I mean, not luckily, I don't have the social media following, so I don't have to like have the pressure of like, you know, showing the stuff that people want to see, whether that's the highlight stuff, but then also being real. But I mean, I think it's important if you have a platform of any kind to just be super aware of what you're doing and saying.
What do you feel is the healthiest practice to be like? What if you had to tell someone like, hey, what you think is the best way to practice social media in a I guess a mentally stable way?
I mean, so for me, hopefully I will get there, you know, because hopefully that will be, you know, right next to a successful career. And for me personally, which is what I live by in my music, and I would just want to try to do the same thing in social media, is just being a 100% myself and real. Because at the end of the day, like, I can't be at fault for that, you know? If I'm not faking anything and I'm just being myself and my stories are me and I'm just talking and I'm just living my life, you know, you might not like me as a person and that's fine, you know? Not everyone has to like you, but at least you're just being yourself. Because I think that's what's important. Like, it can be very easy to like almost create like a persona. And that can create kind of hand in hand with those unrealistic standards and stuff. And there's different ways to do stuff. If you're in the comedy space and you have a persona, like, do your thing. Obviously, it's all relative. But for me, whether it's social media, music, any aspect of my life, it's just being 100% true to myself. And I think that's what people like to see. They see real people, and that's what resonates with them. Those are my favorite people.
Exactly.
You know?
And there is a surgence of real now. I think prior to the pandemic, the pandemic kind of forced us to really look at ourselves and forced us to look at the way we live as a society.
Totally.
We were constantly going, and then the huge pause button got hit, and now you kind of got to face yourself. And as you face yourself, we started to make changes. What are some of the changes you've made during the pandemic?
Most of it has been being self-aware, like exactly what you're talking about. When you're in isolation, spending all that time with yourself, just being hyper self-aware. I have a lot of self-doubt issues. I have a lot of issues with caring way too much what people think about me. Literally, my last song, well, 2 songs ago, is called "If I Didn't Care," and it talks about if I didn't care what other people think about me, and it's like this like amazing like how I would feel and I would be myself, and like that's what I'm trying to pursue. And yeah, everything I do, just being self-aware, like what you say to someone, how you make them feel. When you get emotional, being aware, like, why am I emotional? If you're angry or sad or whatever. And, because, yeah, you just get frustrated sometimes. And you'll be like, is this really them that they're making me frustrated, or is it the way I'm responding, you know? And, like, there's so many small things, and, like, understanding yourself and your mindset. And so, yeah, for me, it's just trying to grow as a person, because I think it helps me in every other aspect. And it's helped me like care less when I'm releasing music, because it's so easy. I mean, this world, whether you're a musician, any kind of artist, or an influencer, if you're putting yourself out there, you are opening yourself to criticism, and how you respond to that criticism can be very difficult. So yeah, I think it's just important to be yourself.
That's true.
Stand by it, and yeah.
A musician's nightmare is the comment section.
Yeah, literally, 100%.
It's literally.
You always read it.
Yeah, and you always say you're not gonna read it, and then you read it anyway, and you're like, you're devastated. It's like, oh no.
Yeah.
So stay out of the comment section, everyone.
Literally.
So for everything you've experienced and the things that you've lost a friend, you've gone through a pandemic, all these things, life has spiraled for you a little bit.
Yeah.
How do you find hope? What's hope for you?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm very grateful to like I have been an optimistic person my entire life, so I'm very thankful for that. Just inherently, like I've noticed since I was a kid, like I don't have to try very hard to be optimistic, and I'm very lucky for that because it's not a conscious choice. Like, I'm just lucky to like live that way, I guess. Kind of coming back to like being self-aware and knowing yourself. For me, it's like inner promises and like knowing yourself, and when you have those dark moments where you do lose hope, knowing that it is temporary and that there will be a light. Because honestly, I just had a session yesterday. I was talking to a songwriter, and I told him about how 2 years ago was the first time I considered like just leaving the music industry, just kind of giving up. And just even the fact that I considered it really still bothers me to this day, because I was like, I did have that doubt.
What brought you to that point of considering letting music go? Because it plays such a huge role.
Like, I'm 25 now, and you see all these people, you know, like people less than 18 years old becoming superstars at the Grammys, and you just get to a point where you're like, what am I really doing here? Like, is there really hope? You know, like, am I really gonna? And there's all those thoughts, all the doubt. That stuff is so real, and every artist I've talked to has that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every day. Every single day.
Every day.
And so for me, knowing what I love, knowing what I want to do, and when I have even like a slightly good day, just making sure like I'm making a promise to myself that like I am going to keep doing this. And this is what I want to do, and I would never forgive myself if I left, you know? And then when I have the dark days, I'd like think back to those days, and I'm like, come on, like, you know, like this is just a lull. And honestly, actually, the guy I was talking to yesterday, one thing he said was like, progress is not like this.
Nope.
Progress is like this. And I don't know why that helped me so much, because lately I've been feeling like I'll have a couple good weeks and then one bad day and I'm like, start from zero again.
Exactly, because more progress is more like a roller coaster than it is a mountain or a hill.
Exactly.
And people don't really understand that. And I get you about like, hey, you have social media, then you have the industry, and those are two things that are like anxiety ridden. Oh my, you're constantly judging yourself. You're constantly going, okay, this guy's song. Like for me, streaming is like, it gives me anxiety because it's like, when are you gonna hit 1 million? This,
Totally.
and then when you get 1 million, we want 10 million streams.
100%.
It feels like the goalpost is forever moving.
Yeah, 100%.
All the time, like every time. And one of the things that I've been trying to focus on is to enjoy the accolades, enjoy the moments when they're happening, rather than always being forward.
Absolutely.
You don't even get to enjoy it. It's like, oh yeah, you hit this, and then you're like, well, I didn't hit this, and he hit that, and he's younger, and he did this, and they're not even.
Yeah,
and next thing you know, you got anxiety about your anxiety.
Absolutely, literally, yes, 100%. So much.
It's insane.
No, I mean, and like based on that, like I think what I learned is you know, if you want to have your moment where you're thankful for the streams you've gotten, have that moment. Be happy about it. Be like, nice, I got these streams. But do not let your happiness depend on those things. And that's what I saw actually. I'm very happy, like 3 or 4 years ago, very fresh to the industry, I saw a J. Cole interview where he was talking about that exact thing.
He's one of my favorite artists.
Yeah, yeah.
He's one of my
and he
favorite.
was talking about how a lot of people put their happiness in their careers. And it's exactly what you just said. It is never, ever good enough.
Yeah,
no matter
ever.
how much money you make, how much you stream, you will always want more. If you're the #1 artist in the world, you will want more. And so he was like, I learned that. And that's why he's like, I put my happiness in my friends, my family, like those important relationships. Like the music's great and it's good if you're doing great. Be happy, like embrace that. But I do not put my happiness. If I release a song and it doesn't stream well, I'm like, well, I love the song and it's a part of like who I am. And if anyone listens to it, that's great. But because before, dude, I would, if it didn't stream well in the first couple of weeks, I would be so sad. It's not
You feel
good.
like your whole entire career failed,
Yeah,
right?
you're like,
you feel
this is it.
This is it. It's over. No more music for me
Yeah.
after this song. And it's
Exactly.
like, dude, it's not a song. It's
Exactly.
part of your journey. 'Cause
Exactly.
as an artist, you're just living. One of the things I like, even doing these interviews and doing things, is people we weren't here just to accomplish things.
Yeah.
What we're really here for is a collective experience.
Absolutely.
And to be with each other and understand each other and experience life together. And the
Totally.
way, when you frame life in a frame of, hey, these accolades, it changes that. So
Totally.
I always love to bring that back. So it's
Yeah.
amazing that you kind of already do that and put that forward. So I
For
think
sure.
I think that's really, really amazing. I
Yeah,
think that's
thank
awesome.
you, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Sink or swim, you said to me. Do you see me falling?